Hello, boys and girls. I am back for video number 2. And I want to start out by saying Happy St. Patrick's Day. I'm sad that we won't be at school today to celebrate together, but I picked the perfect story for us to read together today. And the book that we're going to read is called The Luckiest Leprechaun. And I have to tell you that this is one of my favorite stories. And I know you guys say that I say that all the time, but this one really is one of my favorites and one of my favorites to read on St. Patrick's Day. So settle in. Again, we're going to pretend that I'm in my rocking chair and you're on our blue carpet and we are getting ready to read together. Here we go. The Luckiest Leprechaun, a tail-wagging tale of friendship by Justine Corman, and it is illustrated by Denise Brunkus. Mackenzie Shamrock, at your service, but you can call me Mac. I'm a leprechaun, and I don't care if you believe in me or not. Get too close, and I'll show you who's real with my hammer. I may be small, but we leprechauns are not to be trifled with. There. Now that that's settled, pull up a toadstool, or a chair if you're too big, and I'll tell you my story. And that word toadstool means mushroom. So if you look, Mac is sitting on top of a mushroom. That's how small he is. I was born beneath a fairy hill back when time was new. Ever since, I've been making shoes for the fairy folk and guarding my gold from greedy people. Treasure hunters have to get up pretty early in the morning to get the best of Mackenzie Shamrock. And since leprechauns work at night and they sleep during the day, I'm up much earlier than most. No, they haven't made the human yet who could outsmart me. So they're all trying to trick him. Trying to take his gold. Then people found a new way to boil my potatoes. That means makes him really angry. They stopped believing in leprechauns. They believed in all sorts of nonsense. But the little man making shoes beneath their very own hedge couldn't possibly exist. It got so that only children and oddballs like Professor Chester believed in me. I didn't need people anyway. I had a nice home, under a tree, in a quiet park. As long as I had my gold and my work, this leprechaun was content. Every night, I cobbled for the fairies, which means he made shoes for the fairies. Since all the little things do is dance and lose their shoes, business was pretty steady. Every morning, I'd pack away my tools and I would curl up in my cozy bed. And that's just what I was doing one fine morning when I heard a horrible scratching overhead. Dirt pounded down on my favorite armchair as a pair of giant paws burst through the ceiling. My thimble collection clattered to the floor. I grabbed my hammer and I ran outside to see who was wrecking my home. I expected a goblin or some other horrible monster. Oh, look at that paw. Breaking right through this roof. What is it? Is it a goblin? Is it a monster? I found a shaggy red dog burying a stinky soup bone. Hello, she barked. Who are you? I'm Mackenzie Shamrock, I shouted. And you've got some nerve destroying my home. You'll not be stealing my gold, you mangy mortal, so take your bone and go. I'm sorry, I didn't realize anyone was living here, the dog said. Is that your gold? It's very pretty. Go, shoot, get lost, I shouted. The dog didn't budge. Shaking her head, she said, oh, I feel terrible. I've got to make this up to you. I'll fix your house. I'll be your guard dog. I don't need a guard, I said. But you must need a friend. Everyone needs a friend, the dog said. My name is Lucky. What's yours? That made me even madder. Mackenzie, old shamrock, I yelled. Oh yeah, that's right. You did tell me, Lucky replied. But that's so much to remember. May I just call you Mac? I hope we'll be friends. Everything's more fun when you do it together, don't you think? Just the other day, Lucky would have gone on like that for hours, but I told her to go away and stay away. Apparently, stay was the only command that the dumb dog knew. From then on, wherever I went, there was Lucky. She was slobbering all over me when I woke up at dusk, and she was on my heels while I gathered cobwebs for thread. Lucky even tailed me when I made my deliveries to the fairies. And she always had a cheerful word, or 100. It drove me nuts. That dog was even happy when it rained. Rain is where rainbows come from, Lucky said. I love rainbows, don't you? I could chase them all day. Why don't you go chase them then, so I can get some quiet around here, I growled. After a while, I learned to not talk so much, especially when I first woke up in the morning or in the evening. I won't say we became friends, but she got to be slightly less annoying. Speaking of annoying, remember that human I mentioned a while back? The oddball who still believed in leprechauns? That's right, Professor Chester. Well, he started snooping around my park. He's after my gold, I cried. Maybe he just wants to be friends, Lucky suggested. I snorted. Humans want only one thing from a leprechaun, gold. But he won't get the best of Mackenzie, old shamrock. Professor Chester was getting dangerously close. He even found a fairy shoe. Don't worry, Mac, said Lucky. You've got your guard dog, remember? I won't let anything happen to your gold. I took no comfort in the mutt's ravings. I watched Professor Chester pore over his books of leprechaun lore. If only I could prove their existence, he muttered. Ooh, I shuddered. Maybe I'll just go away, Lucky said. I thought about packing up, but I liked my cozy life under the tree. Besides, business is good, and it's not so easy to find a park filled with fairies. Then, one day, while I was sleeping, the professor found my tree. He was about to capture me and would have gotten my gold for sure when... Woof, 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 woof. Millie actually barked that one. Lucky came charging out of the woods. The professor cried, "Help! It's a monster! Help!" He dropped his map and he ran off screaming. I thought I was having a nightmare. I rolled over with a groan and I fell right back to sleep. Professor Chester just kept running until he wore out the soles of his shoes. It turned out that the professor was scared of dogs. That evening, I woke up feeling something was wrong. For one thing, the dumb dog wasn't licking my face. Suddenly, with a jerk, I remember the nightmare. I checked for my gold in all of my secret hiding places. It was gone, and so was Lucky. I called Lucky's name until my voice was hoarse, but there was no answer. I felt as if I had lost my shadow and my friend. Then it hit me. My worst fear had come true. The dog wasn't as silly as she seemed. Lucky had duped me into trusting her. As soon as I'd let my guard down, she had run off with my gold. I, Mackenzie old Shamrock, the smartest leprechaun of them all, had finally been tricked out of my treasure. Did you guys think Lucky really would trick Mackenzie old Shamrock and steal his gold? Let's keep reading. I searched the park for hours, but there was no sign of my gold or of Lucky. I told myself the dog had skipped off with my treasure, but part of me didn't believe it. One minute I was furious, the next I was worried. What if the stupid pooch had chased a rainbow into traffic or had gotten herself taken to the pound? I couldn't even keep my mind on my missing gold. By dawn, I was the saddest leprechaun in the world. After centuries of being suspicious, I had finally opened up my heart, and pow! The first friend I had made had stolen my gold. The sun came up, and I wiped away a tear. Then a voice behind me said, "Why are you crying?" I turned and I saw Lucky and my gold. "Where were you?" I yelled. I was worried sick. Lucky licked my face. "Oh, you do care. I knew we'd be friends." I wiped the dog slobber from my face and I grumbled. I was worried about my gold. Lucky explained that she had seen Professor Chester nosing around near my tree. After she had chased him away, she'd hidden my treasure in the tool shed just to make sure it was safe. Then, worn out from the excitement, she'd fallen asleep. "Did you really spend all night looking for me?" Lucky asked. "And the gold," I added hastily. But the damage was done. The dog knew I cared, and she wouldn't stop wagging her tail over it. So there's my story. Leprechaun gets gold. Leprechaun gets dog. Leprechaun loses gold. Leprechaun admits that a loyal friend is worth more than gold, as long as the friend doesn't slobber too much. Now, if that isn't a tale worth telling upon a toadstool, I'm sure I don't know what is. All right, boys and girls, I hope now you can see why that is my favorite St. Patrick's Day story. I want you to think about that for a minute. That leprechaun was so concerned about his gold, and only his gold, that he had never let anyone into his life to love him and to be friends with him until the dog came along, Lucky. Now, I want you to think about that. And if you want, you can write about it. I want you to think about in your life what means more to you than gold. For Matt, gold was all he cared about his entire life until he met Lucky. And then he realized that Lucky was really special and that he cared for Lucky a lot. So in your life, what do you care about more than gold? Write about it. I would love to see your answers. Now, my girls are making me show you guys the caterpillars because we talked about them yesterday. So here are our caterpillars. There really is not much change. Emma Kate has a couple of caterpillars up in her room, and one of her caterpillars has gone up to the top and has started to make itself into a J shape. And that's what we're waiting for these caterpillars to do, because that's the first step in creating their chrysalis. So we're still watching them. It looks as if they're making their way to the top of the cup, but still no change yet. We'll check in on them again tomorrow. All right, boys and girls, I love you all. Happy St. Patrick's Day. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye. You gonna say bye?